What's up, y'all? My name's Spence. I'm a data scientist working in nonprofit fundraising technology. And I wanted to hop on here just to talk a little bit about my experience of transitioning from communications in the nonprofit world to working at a tech company doing data work. My hope is that by learning about my journey, it might give you some info that you might need to make your own switch. Going back a little bit in time to 2020, I was about a year in as a communications director at a nonprofit organization. This was my third nonprofit comms role. And while there were like ups and downs to any person's career, I really felt like I had had a successful run at that point. By that time, I'd run campaigns at the local level, national, international level. I was making a great salary, at least the highest salary of my life at that point. And I also felt connected to the work and the people that the organization was serving. Despite that success, I still felt that there was a disconnect. At this point in my career, I had noticed some common trappings for nonprofit communications roles. First off, I felt like I was extremely online, sort of this constant connection to social media. I think there were so many times when, a thing would happen in the national news and maybe reporters reach out. It's just a very exhausting thing. And that's beside all of the sort of, studies about the, negative effects of social media on the brain. At this time, I was also thinking hard about compensation. I think working hard in an in-person role, slightly below market rate in an expensive city was really starting to put the pressure on me. When you have that role that has other duties as assigned in your job description, I think that really started to put pressure on me. At the same time, I was thinking deeply about my daily motivation to do work. And I think for a lot of nonprofit professionals, there's sort of this direct attachment of values to work that can kind of become a bit of a burden in itself. So picture, if you will, there's this spectrum of jobs and how connected you are to a thing and why you are connected. And so on this one side, you've got maybe a very tedious, repetitive job where you just go in, you collect a paycheck, and then you clock out at 5 o'clock at night, and then you never think about it. And then on this other side of the spectrum is maybe something that you feel deeply and emotionally connected to as a person. Maybe it's working at an animal shelter. No matter how good you are at your job, your motivation can affect your framing of your efforts on a daily basis. On a bad day, you might not just feel like you're failing yourself, but you might feel like you're failing some trapped animal somewhere that needs to be rescued. After a lot of reflection, I thought about the moments that got me feeling energized, and I kind of realized that those were moments when I was doing data work. There were times when I was figuring out how effectively emails and social media posts were activating supporters, geospatial analyses of donors to figure out the best locations for out-of-home advertisement, writing Python scripts to help save time on boring tasks. And so with all of that, I decided to make a leap. And so I think this is end of January 2020, right before stuff hit the fan. I had quit my job and enrolled in classes. And at this point, I was still sort of unsure about how far I wanted to go in terms of schooling and education. But I knew that I needed to upskill in terms of math and computer science. The last math class I had taken was calculus 10 years prior. On the computer science side, I was self-taught, a little bit of Ruby and Python, but that was really it. I found classes focused on statistics, linear algebra, discrete math, and Python at my local community college and through MOOCs online. And while I was doing this career transition, I still needed to support myself financially. I decided to work the 2020 decennial census. And so I worked as an enumerator, fancy word for somebody who counts. And I went door to door through Washington, D.C. and helped people share their demographic info about their household with the government. Minimal PPE provided. And this also happened during the middle of summer in Washington, D.C. So every day I ended drenched in sweat and covered in mosquito bites. As the year progressed, I eventually started to apply for data jobs. My strategy was to look for jobs in domains where I had some level of expertise. And for me, that was nonprofit fundraising and also digital advocacy a little bit. For weeks, I applied to tens of jobs and, got lots of rejections. But by September, I did hear back from an employer. This was a political action committee focused on racial justice, and they were looking for a data manager. And this looked like a really great opportunity, but I think some of the biggest caveats were that it was a seasonal job and the pay was 10% lower than I had been making in my previous role. But the upsides were that this was, I think, a chance to make like a big break into a new field, and the people seemed awesome and focused on professional growth. And so I decided to roll the dice. I joined that organization as a data manager. A lot of my role focused on building dashboards to track performance of fundraising, email, advertising campaigns, and then also sort of on the operational side, writing queries, to help build lists of users that we're going to target. I really just learned so much in that experience. I had the opportunity to skill up technically. I got really good at SQL, which really I had only gotten maybe a week of exposure to prior to starting the job. In addition to that, I got exposure to data tools like Redshift, Sisense, Fivetran. And I don't think like much of this could be possible without, I think, the teammates that I had who were working alongside me every day. I was able to like learn and shadow from folks who had more formal experiences in analytics, data, and political work. You know, there's just sort of this like amazing scrappiness that comes with doing political data work. Everyone is just like laser focused in on getting data flowing and getting that in a dashboard or with some end product as quickly as possible. And political jobs can be great because they give you a chance to help the people with values that align with yours get elected and get into office and potentially change the world for the better. So what happened next after all this? I continued to learn and grow during that election season, which eventually got extended due to runoff elections in Georgia. Then I got brought on permanently for a data analyst role. After about a year or so, I used this experience as a springboard to other data opportunities, none of which could have happened without this first data job. To wrap things up, I hope this story about my journey transitioning from fundraising communications to data was helpful for you. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in making a switch of your own. What are some of the things that are motivating your decision? Are there things that you're nervous about? Are you hitting any roadblocks? I'm also going to drop links in the description to resources that I use to help skill up and find jobs that were up my alley. Let me know if you found this story interesting, and I'll try to provide some more content like this in the future. Catch you later.